Hello everyone, welcome to my new video. Today we are June 27th, 2020. This chart is showing the second halving, which happens on July 9, 2016. And I want to compare the second halving to the third halving, which happens in May 2020. So what happens around the second halving? First, we had an advance in the Bitcoin price of 45%. And then the second halving happened on July 9. And after, we had a decline of 30%. And all this happened in a time frame of approximately 2 months, between May 27th and the 2nd of August. And the reason is probably that after the halving, a few miners decided to stop working because the difficulty of the mining increased, and that's why it was not profitable anymore for them to continue mining. So they stopped, and then they dumped their bitcoins on the market. So that's why we had a decline of 30%. When we compare to the current situation, we can see that we first had an advance of 37% before the third halving, which happened on May 11th, 2020. And we are now waiting for the decline, and the advance happened around April 29th of 2020, and 2 months later will be June 29th. So at the end of the month, we can possibly see a decline due to the fact that a few miners will stop their activities. When we look at the chart of the Bitcoin price, we see that first we had a top around June 23rd. Then we had a plunge, and we found support on this trend line. And we could not breach this resistance line 3 times, and we can expect that we will not breach this resistance line anymore because the bulls are getting exhausted, and we can expect to move in this triangle a little bit more, but before the 10th of the 10th of July, we will have an outbreak, probably downward, and then we have another important support line around 8,700, and when we cross this line, we will have little support in this area, and then we will take a nosedive. When we look at the bigger picture, we can see that the price of Bitcoin has been moving between these two orange lines since the beginning of 2018, and since the summer of 2019 we are moving in a so-called megaphone pattern represented by these blue lines, and the price of Bitcoin did not breach these trend lines, and we can expect to go down from here and find support on this trend line around 5,000, or on this trend line around 2,500. And when we look at the stochastic RSI, we see that the stochastic RSI has turned bearish, and when we compare to the top in February, we see that the stochastic RSI has perfectly predicted the decline in the next weeks. So we can expect the same to be happening now again. When we look at the stock market, we see that the S&P index has taken a plunge yesterday. This was probably due to the fact that the pandemic is not yet under control in America, and probably the S&P will continue to go down more because we have the same pattern as here around the beginning of February. First we went down a little bit, then we retested the support line, and then we took a nosedive. The same is happening here again. First, we went down a little bit, then we retested the support line, and now we can expect a new plunge. And the reason is probably the pandemic and when we compare the situation in Italy to the US, we can see that the curve has flattened in Italy, but the same has not happened yet in the US. So maybe there will be no second wave, but the first wave will simply continue. This was all for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and see you next time.